President William Ruto stated categorically that JKA will not be sold, but instead be leased just to upgrade or to facelift it. And it's not yet clear whether or how that was arrived at. Adani was not or has not since given more details about the deal it entered with the country, and also the government has also not disclosed these details. And so the Treasury Principal Secretary has been given 2 weeks to appear before the same committee to give answers as to what has been agreed to or inked by the government and Adani Holdings. This even as the Kenya Airports Workers Union have condemned the secrecy around the deal, with fears that most or all of them could lose their jobs, and so they even threatening to strike. This even as the Kenya's carrier, that is Kenya Airways, KQ, recorded a 513 million profits for the first time in 11 years in the first half or the post-half year earnings. 513 million for the first time Kenya Airways recorded that as their profits. We'll also touch on the Treasury using 47 billion Kenya shillings for fuel subsidy. Remember, when President William Ruto took over office, he scrapped off what his predecessor had begun, that is the fuel subsidy, and as well the maize subsidy. But that has since, or it has now emerged that Treasury used over 47 billion Kenya shillings, money that was spent between April and June, in what they say was to stabilize the retail fuel prices. In matters technology, but still related to the economy, the satellite internet Starlink has now entered the country, disrupting the market, and that is a firm that is owned by Elon Musk, which unveiled new cheaper data, data plan for the consumers. However, it takes you up to 45,000 just to install their software, but it's hitting competition for local telcos. That includes Safaricom and Airtel. When you talk, of course, about matters prices, there is a bill before the National Assembly. That is the Price Control Essential Goods Amendment Bill of 2024 that seeks to enact the 2011 Act. In fact, it proposes that the CS can fix the minimum and the maximum prices of key commodities, that is essential commodities such as maize flour, cooking oil, sugar, rice, that will be monitored by the Price Control Unit. We'll be reviewing what that basically means, even as in Parliament there is a renewed push to clip KRA powers to waive taxes, and MPs want, of course, that or those powers to be with them, and they will be the last say whether some taxes will be waived or not. This even as KRA, which is the revenue collection body, has now come up with a new hiring policy. Remember, the High Court had nullified the recruitment of 1,406 revenue service assistants on ethnic imbalance grounds. And so to cure that, KRA has now come up with a new policy to ensure that there is ethnic balance. We'll be reviewing the importance of that as far as, of course, uniting the country is concerned. Eyes on the SGR, where it seeks to also expand the list of commodities transported, including edible oil and liquor. Remember, its profits had dipped as a result of what many would argue was the increase in the fare prices by 50%, for instance, for the economy class from 1,000 Kenya shillings to 1,500 Kenya shillings. Have you ever heard of the Equalization Fund that MPs have backed that it be extended by 10 years? To expand on that conversation, I'll be having very key guests in studio. That is Ruth Kinyanjui. She is an economist, CPA Julius Ruto, member of the Finance Committee of the National Assembly, and as well Honorable James Gakuya, who is the member or the chair of the Trade Committee of the National Assembly and as well Member of Parliament, Embakasi North constituency. Keep the conversation going. Via social media platforms at K24 TV, at Joel Chacha, as well on SMS and WhatsApp numbers on the bottom of your screens. Of course, I'll be sampling some of your feedback before wrapping up New Dawn this morning. But before my guests join me in studio, we begin with the newspaper review with our own publication here at Media Max. That is the People Daily, Kenya's #1 free newspaper. Splashes of facing auction. That is after a ruling yesterday. There is an image there at the top side of the People Daily of Lenol Kulal, that is the former Samburu governor who faced, or the face of the 84 million corruption in Samburu. He was found guilty by the court, and this is what the People Daily highlights this morning, where the former governor, that is Moses Lenol Kulal, has been found guilty of unlawfully acquiring 83 million public property. Anti-corruption magistrate Thomas Nzioki, in his ruling, said that the governor used his company, that is Oryx Service Station, to supply petrol and diesel to the county government. And that story in detail is actually on page 8, even before touching on those who are facing auction. Court convicts ex-governor Lenol Kulal of 84 million fraud. The former county boss found guilty of corruptly receiving 84 million for the supply of petroleum products. Former Samburu governor Moses Lenol Kulal was yesterday convicted of corruption or of corruptly receiving 84 million for the supply of petroleum products at the county government when he was the county chief. While delivering the lengthy judgment, Chief Magistrate Thomas Nzioki of the Milimani Anti-Corruption Court said, from the evidence produced in court by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, that is the ODPP, it is not in doubt that Lenol Kulal and his proxy Hesbon and Dathi were ultimate beneficiaries of the public funds. He said, there is overwhelming evidence that Lenol Kulal, being the governor of Samburu at the time, the offense were committed acted in conflict of interest. The magistrate said that he analyzed the evidence and relied on over 200 payment vouchers and local purchase orders as evidence of Lenol Kulal's direct trading with the county. That is a conflict of interest. Compromised interest. He said the former governor's integrity was thus compromised by private interest. He also faulted the county secretary, who was the second accused person in the case, for the role he played that led to the loss of the money. He said the county secretary actually signed and approved payments while aware Lenol Kulal was the owner of the Oryx Service Station. This even sets precedence of how future cases will be handled. And the magistrate also said that the evidence adduced in court by the DPP, led by prosecution counsel Wesley Namache, was overwhelming in that Lenol Kulal co-accused person used their offices to improperly approve payments to Oryx. And so Lenol Kulal was actually charged in 2019 with abuse of office, conflict of interest, leading to the alleged loss of 84 million Kenya shillings. He was accused of using his company, that is the Oryx Service Station, to supply petrol and diesel to the county. The charge sheet indicated that Lenol Kulal knowingly acquired direct private interest in contracts between Oryx and the Samburu for the supply of fuel. Speaking immediately after the ruling of the Milimani Anti-Corruption Courts, the EACC spokesperson Eric Ngumbi said that the ruling is of monumental significance in the fight against corruption. And now in studio, I'm joined by Honorable James Gakuya, Chair of the Trade Committee of the National Assembly. Thank you so much for creating time this morning. Just focusing on what the People Daily has splashed, that is Lenol Kulal, the face of 84 million corruption case in Samburu. I believe this is the first governor to be among the governors who have been found guilty of corruption, especially while they served as county bosses. This morning, of course, having also interest perhaps in the gubernatorial, it's hinted that Honorable Gakuya, you could be contesting for the Nairobi, county boss position. Does this now set precedence for good governance, especially with the governors?
Thank you, Joe. Good morning, viewers. And coming to the matter to do with the verdict of former Samburu governor, let me say that the laws of the land has been always there, and there is always a clear way on which investigations are done and how the evidence are being induced and taken to court, because whenever matter is being under the level of suspect, it always remains suspected, because you cannot convict somebody before the hearing of the matter. And taking for example what transpired with this particular ruling, it's a ruling which has given a wide space for what we call justice, because this is a clear demarcation of how it should be, the business should be run. And this is just to clear that, in fact, once you are a sitting governor as an executive, then obviously you don't have to have those other interests within. That is to say, if it's a matter to do with the business, where you are the top CEO, that is conflict of interest. And I think it is not new. That is how it should be and how it should run. So I think what matters is the gravity of the evidence, which puts you to such kind of allegation. And if the court has proved that actually the evidence has weight to convict Len Korol, I still believe that he has the right to appeal the decision, but I would say that in fact that's how it should work.
And there was a conflict of interest bill 2023 that brought true colors of especially senators. Would it mean then, if this bill would have passed or sailed through, it will be hard to even prosecute such matters?
It depends on how the laws are crafted, because how it should run, both the Senate and the National Assembly are houses to craft laws, and the courts are rule interpreters, and therefore the court can only abide with the laws that actually has gotten what we call approval by the houses, either National Assembly or the Senate. And if the law speaks of ABCD, I believe that is what the court should read to, because there is always amendment of the law. There can be a law today. Tomorrow, the public may feel that it's not yielding the fruits, and therefore that law gets amended and comes back with a different version. But I would say, as we stand, that the position we are in, I think in matters to do with conflict of interest, this has given at least a clear demarcation on how you should operate as a CEO either in a county government or in a national government.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is on Lennon Kulal, the face of 84 million corruption in Samburu, and still on the same cover page of the People Daily, facing auction petitions, the politicians and a state house official or Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, millions awarded from unsuccessful petitions filed challenging the outcomes of elections. AG authorizes cash recovery. That's the Attorney General. We have Lenny Kivitu, Hassan Nur Hassan, Walter Nyambati. In fact, for Lenny Kivuti, it's 4.5 million Kenya shillings. Hassan Nur Hassan, 5 million Kenya shillings. Walter Nyambati, 5 million Kenya shillings. Elizabeth Ongoro, 1.5 million Kenya shillings. Ochilo Ayako, 3.7 million Kenya shillings. That is the Migori governor. Farah Maalim Dada, Member of Parliament, 3 million Kenya shillings. And Josephat Nanok, 1.5 million Kenya shillings. He is the official who works at State House. And according to Marjan, that is the IBC CEO, the LG has allowed us to recover cash deposited in banks as security by the politicians. And so they could lose millions as a result of not honoring their, of course, the fact that they did not actually pay IBC the damages or what the courts usually rule during petitions. And that is on page 7, just to get more details of that story on the People Daily. IBC to auction 400 petitioners to recover 400 million debts. The electoral agency has turned to auctioneers to sell property of politicians who lost election-related petitions to recover 400 million awarded by courts. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission was awarded a total of 403 million in costs arising from unsuccessful petitions filed challenging the outcome of the elections in 2013 and 2017. That is according to the documents that were tabled before the Public Accounts Committee. Some 139 politicians who vied for governors, senators, or MPs owe the IBC millions of shillings. The money includes 99 million awarded to the agency by the High Court following petitions filed after the 2013 election, and another awarded by lower courts, 32 million related to the 2017 poll, and 4.3 million from lower courts for 2013. But a decade later, the agency has not recovered the money. The CEO, that is Marjan Hussein Marjan, blames on the long process of executing the court orders. The money flagged by the Auditor General is to be recovered from 1 million in security deposits paid in court by petitioners. Usually when you file a petition, you pay 1 million in security deposits. And so that money was not returned or will not be returned if you lose, and you're ordered to pay the amounts. And so the agency has now turned to auctioneers following a go-ahead from the Office of the Attorney General, Marjan. Honorable Gakuya, politicians who especially, there is this tendency of maybe just trying to, fight for the slot before it's taken fully after elections, just contesting. And it's now imagined that more than 403 million is with politicians who, despite appealing and they were defeated in those petitions, they have not paid IBC. Is it time they honor the obligations, or this is the way to go? Auction them.
One, let me say, immediately you take a matter on a petition to a judicial court, there is always a ruling at the end of it. And the verdict, if you are the one who presented the petition and you lose it, then there is obviously two costs that you must meet. One, you must meet the cost of the one you charged in court. And number two, you must also meet the cost of the IBC, because the IBC is always represented on that matter by lawyers. And most of these lawyers are hired. They are not, they are not staffs of the IBC. Therefore, there is, if you pay the other partner you charge in court his cost, then you should always honor to pay the IBC cost. And I would say that, in fact, if you look the names that are appearing in this paper, most of these names are just ignoring to pay. Because somebody like Kifuti is a billionaire. How can you imagine 4.5 is a big issue to him? Many other faces that you see here, others are current members of the parliament. Others are current governors. Then you can't tell me that actually they have lacked money to pay. It's just an ignorant. Because IBC has not been very focal on recovering this kind of money. But now that they have now the node from the AG, I think now they can do they can do the obvious.
In fact, the name of Josephat Nanok also features.
Of course.
and
and what I'll tell you, Joe, is that in fact you'll find it in a course of 2 weeks. Most of these particular monies will be cleared, because that's why we come to prove that actually majority of these people are just ignoring that particular agency. And now that they have given the teeth to bite, I am telling you, they will rush to pay.
And now we are joined by Honorable CPA Julius Ruto, Member of Parliament, KSS, and as well Member of the Finance and National Planning Committee of the National Assembly. Thank you so much for taking time this morning, Honorable Ruto.
Thank you so much, Joe.
We are focusing on the IEBC that is just now to auction poll petitioners to recover 400 million Kenya shillings, and several names are featuring there once again just to state them. Topping the list of the politicians who owe the commission is the former Provincial Commissioner Hassan Nur Hassan, who owes the commission over 5 million Kenya shillings. Others are the former MP Walter Nyambati, 5 million, former Embu governor or gubernatorial aspirant Lenny Kivuti, 4.5 million Kenya shillings. Others are Farah Malim, 3 million Kenya shillings. Is it time, you know, even the governor, Migori Governor Chilo Ayako, is there, who was slapped with a 3.7 million Kenya shilling in cost after losing to former Governor Kotho Bado? Will these monies go to appropriations in aid, or how are they considered when it comes to, you know, even after recovering them, especially for the IBC? 400 million is a lot of money.
Well, Joe, first of all, you must appreciate that with the independence of judiciary, such matters that goes before judiciary are prosecuted accordingly with the law and with the guidance principles that the courts are using in determining cases. Some cases are determined with cost, some are determined without cost, and there are justifications behind it. Some of these petitions probably were motivated by agitations or as a result of an acceptance to the outcome of a competition. And in the fairness of the judiciary, looking at a case, sometimes they find that this case was not meeting the threshold. And to deter such in future, abusing of the court's time resource, the courts makes a rule as such, and instructs or commands the petitioner to be able to meet that cost of the courts. Such collections, in my understanding, most of them, when they are collected, I mean, they are classified together with the small charges, you know, the court fines, and some of these, if the defendant for this purpose was awarded by virtue of that, well, all these are collected, and to some extent, I think IBC being an independent commission, I'm not aware whether this one forms A, but rather, of course, in the long run, it amounts to the national revenue that can be considered for purpose of budget.
And just as a show of goodwill in terms of obeying court orders, with most of them even still holding offices, it's time they be auctioned or they pay. Will it set a good precedence?
As soon as it has been declared by the courts, that's an obligation, and to set a good precedence, I'm expecting one Nanok here. I'm expecting Farah Mali, my good friend and senior member of parliament. I'm expecting him to clear his name, because it is not in good standing for you to be having a claim against you, especially a public claim, you know. You are serving a public office, and at the same time, the public is looking at you to honor, to set a good example. So I'm expecting them to commend this. And sometimes you may not be having all this money, but the courts will allow you to demonstrate the commitment by even doing the piecemeal payment. So I'm expecting them to, I'm not speaking for them, neither for any party here, but on a good ground and on matters of good governance, and show a good leadership. They should show leadership by also honoring their obligation, to the extent that I was not expecting such names to have come to this level, especially those who are serving. Even all of them, because they are public figures. You know, once you have started as a state officer, you still remain with that name, because that name will never change. If you are a member of parliament, public will still regard you as honorable so and so. So for you to qualify that honorable so and so, even despite the fact that you're not actively serving, it is an honor that Kenyans are giving you. So give dues what it belongs to dues.
The name of the late Jacoy Midiwo also features with 1.5 million Kenya shillings. I'm not sure whether still...
You can't follow him from the grave.
You'll follow.
Well, I don't know. I don't know whether it means it was attached to including these estates, because the fact that a person dies,
unless there was a collateral,
the estates will never die, because other than the administrator will pick the responsibility.
Even if their sons or daughters took over.
As long as the administrator has been appointed, succession has been done well, part of the inclusion in succession includes public debt. And at times, the law is very descriptive that they form first church.
Well, we'll be seeing how that will play out when we come back. We'll be focusing on what is on the Standard newspaper, the Daily Nation, and as well the Star newspaper and Taifa Leo. We'll take a short commercial break. We'll be back with the newspaper review right here on the New Dawn. Stay tuned.